Well, I've been personally back and forth for a lot of reasons for over the years, given a lot of reasons. But at the end of the day, I fall in support of legalization. Where do you stand with that, and what is your take on it?
Yeah, so I've been really clear that I don't support it. Again, from the onset, I don't support medicinal marijuana. I don't, support recreational marijuana. And again, we can go through the pros and the cons of it. I've seen some of the videos or the posts on Facebook where seizures have been controlled in children, where, there are all of these other things where it helps with depression and anxiety and this and that. And there's a lot of that there. The problem is it's not proven. So when you take a drug, this is a class 1 drug, okay? Some argue that it'll be descheduled by the federal government at some point in the future. And if it is, it is. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Right.
Okay. But if you take something along these lines and you allow it to become legal for medicinal purposes, you're allowing people to self-dose, self-administer. There's no quality guidelines. It has not been tested, vetted, any way, shape, or form. So you're allowing something as a state to occur that, one, is completely against federal law.
Right.
Still breaking federal law. Whether the feds ever do anything about it or not, it's totally up to them. Probably won't because of what's been going on, but it's still against federal law.
Right.
Yeah, it still affects your ability to purchase a firearm, affects your ability to drive, all these other things. But talking just about the medicinal piece, you're being your own doctor at that point, right?
Right.
Is it good? Is it bad? What percentage of THC is it? You have no idea, right? They say the marijuana in the 60s is totally different than the marijuana today, because the marijuana in the 60s was about 3% THC. You can now get marijuana as high as 40 and 50% THC, okay? So huge difference. That's like 3-point beer.
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
50%
alcohol by volume.
Liquor. Yeah.
Total different beasts. So you have a very uncontrolled industry. Some say, well, you've got to go with medicinal. You got to go to your doctor to get your marijuana card. Well, what we've seen in a number of states, and I had one constituent reach out to me and say I should look at Florida as being an exception, which I haven't done yet, but I still will. You see in a lot of states where it becomes just very similar to recreational. You stub your toe, you go pay $200, you get your marijuana card, you can go smoke your weed. Okay. So
we're real loose with it. That's a big complaint we hear.
Find a doctor that says that inhaling smoke in your lungs is good for you. Haven't found one yet. Okay. All of these things is where I have issues. When people ask, do you support medical marijuana? I can say that I do. If it would go through the FDA process, if you would have to get a prescription to go to your local pharmacy for your licensed pharmacist to distribute that drug to you, that has been quality tested, that has been thoroughly vetted, reviewed, gone through the process. Okay. And again, they're not going to hand to you a sack of weed to go smoke.
Yeah. So, taking all of that, as I listen to that, what I've read and what I know up to this point, I have some personal views on that.
Sure.
I go kind of libertarian on this issue right here on this subject.
Fair enough.
Which is kind of, at the end of the day, there was a guy who wrote a book, and I'll get you the author. I'll send you the email, and I'll put it in the link below so they can see the book, which is he's against marijuana, and he says it's a bunch of hooey, all these things. So he admittedly on a podcast, and I'll share that with you so you can kind of see both sides. There was a doctor that debated him, and as they go through this debate, the doctor who is prescribing and is very careful and taking care of his patients and takes it very seriously, was debating this guy who said there's no good benefits, and this guy was saying, no, I have patients. But there's a bunch of extremists that say, hey, marijuana can handle everything and anything, and everybody should be smoking.
Right, yeah.
This
plenty of that out there.
Yeah, this culture where I think it causes problems because, no, I don't think it's right for everybody. Without a doctor being involved, I don't think you should be smoking it. My personal opinions and my personal views. But I think we should have access to it if it is helping a certain group or certain person with certain illnesses. and why don't we have access, right? Those are the questions I have.
Sure.
So this one guy kind of did a very deep dive into how marijuana was bad and terrible and never should be legalized. But he also admitted that the reason he did that was to get people to wake up and to get people to start having the conversation. Not just, the world was tilting too far one way, and he thought it was a problem because there was nobody fighting for the other side. So he wrote this masterful book to bring it to the center to start the conversation on what it should look like appropriately, because there's more conversations happening, and the loudest voices out there right now aren't looking at it appropriately in his view. So it's a great book. I'll share it with you.
Yeah. And I love that. I think the key, what you said, is appropriately. Yeah. What is the appropriate process?
Right.
Should it just be anybody who wants it can have it? Should it be through the FDA? Should it be some mix in between?
Right.
At the end of the day, what makes sense? And when you look at Colorado, some argue the economic bank, man, the tax money, they're making so much money on taxes. Well, their black market is even more because nobody wants to pay the 22%. I think it was 22% in taxes to buy it legally.
Right.
You have an increase in childhood overdoses, ER visits, automobile crashes, deaths. There's a lot of law enforcement studies out there from Colorado that show its effect.
Right.
Is that enough? Is it not? Is it worth it for the economic benefit, for the medicinal benefit? I won't say that I am a never know gonna happen guy on this issue.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I will tell you, I will continue to learn. I will continue to study, and I will continue to see what that process ultimately looks like. The way that it is now and the way that it has been now, I still can't support it because we're opening a Pandora's box that we don't know. And there's so many doctors that talk about the psychosis that can be created, not by everybody, but by a lot of people that start smoking weed, get into the heavier weeds. What does that lead to? Do they need a higher high next time? Where does it go?
There's that in the book too.
Sure.
He dissects that. The Against Marijuana guy dissects that, and he makes it kind of like the other side makes their case.
Right.
It's bad for everybody. But the point he's making is it's not okay for everybody, because there are stories he has in there of actual people who they were scholars and the height of their game at Harvard, smoked one time, boom,
Changed.
Life is done. Mental institution.
Yeah. Gosh.
Wow, this is real, right? That happened. And people's chemistry and wiring is different. What does that look like? We don't have the test. We don't know who that person is that's going to take that trigger the wrong way.
That's right.
But I still don't think we have it fully with all these other medications that are out there, where it's a big game where people know how to push them through and they know how to wash them into society. And I had a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, who overdosed about 4 or 5 years ago now. Rest in peace, Nick McGovern. And he was getting prescription meds.
Yeah.
And he found a doctor that was doing just like what some of these medical marijuana doctors do, which is signing people that come through the door and figuring a way to get them what they need. And he passed away. And this doctor, thank God, got some severe time. I think he got a life sentence.
Good.
And these are the things that we need to watch for, right? What does that look like? What are those processes that we have to put in place? But we don't know.
That's right. We don't know what we don't know.
That's right.
Right. And so where does that go? By the way, there are 2 legalized medications you can get through your pharmacist, through your doctor, write a prescription, that are now marijuana based, and there are more coming.
That's awesome.
So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and doctors will have access to those.
They absolutely have access to it.
Anything for seizures or that you know?
Seizures, and I was trying to remember some other neurological issue for another one, but yeah, there are 2, and I can't remember the names off the top of my head when we were having this debate, because we had this debate in judiciary, believe it or not, and where there was a group of families that came together whose children were severely disabled, called Clara and Lola. It ended up being called Clara and Lola's Law. Yeah. You might have seen them on TV. Little bitty kids, beautiful, but severely disabled.
Right.
And they wanted the right to have 5% THC put in their CBD oil. Again, THC is the piece that gets people high.
Yeah.
Some people looked at this as mercy for these children. Others looked at it as the
open
first
door.
stepping stone to opening the door.
That's right.
Right.
I hear it.
And I respect both sides of it. You are where you are. You got to take your own position, stand on it. It ended up passing judiciary. It ended up passing the House. And I believe it was in a conference committee that passed the Senate. And so if the governor signs it, it may be, we'll see what it is or it isn't.
Yeah. We'll have to put things in place as we go, depending on what happens there,
right.
if anything.
Exactly.